Veterans, are you having a hard time locating someone that will complete a VA DBQ and Nexus statement? As a former VA rating specialist, you're not alone. When I was going through the VA claims process, I had the same issue. So in today's video, I'm going to explain how I located someone to complete a DBQ and Nexus statement, my reasons as to why. Also, I'm going to give you some options as to how you can find someone that will complete your DBQs and Nexus statements. Make sure you stick around. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dwayne. I got a video for that Kimball, United States Army veteran and retired VA rating specialist. Today's video, why did I go about obtaining my own private DBQs? Also, I am going to give you some options so you can find someone that will complete DBQs and Nexus statements for you. But before we get into today's video, a word from one of our sponsors. Veterans, if you're filing a VA disability claim for a mental health condition, you know the process can be frustrating and overwhelming. Having the right evidence can make all the difference. That's where Tampa Counseling and Wellness comes in. They specialize in providing mental health DBQs and Nexus statements, helping veterans establish direct service connection for mental health conditions or secondary service connection due to issues like tinnitus, migraines, or back problems. The team at Tampa Counseling and Wellness is passionate about supporting those who serve. They understand the VA process and are committed to helping you get the benefits you've earned. If you need expert support for your mental health claim, don't go at it alone. Contact Tampa Counseling and Wellness today. Okay, everyone, I'm going to start off with how. How did I find someone to complete my DBQs and Nexus statements? When I first started working at the VA, there was no third-party contractors, there was no public DBQs on the VA's website, there wasn't even e-benefits. They didn't have a robust website like they have right now. So all veterans, to include VA employees, had to go to a VA medical center C&P exam. There was no third-party examiners, okay? So I had 4 C&P exams. And if you took any of my training in the past, you've heard me talk about this. And I think I mentioned it in some of my older videos. 4 C&P exams. 2 of them were great. The examiners were great. They asked questions. They let me ask questions. They documented everything. And when I obtained a copy of that C&P exam, they were totally honest, okay? Now, the other 2, flat out horrible. Horrible examiners. It was a horrible exam. It just horrible. And right after that last C&P exam, the 4th one, the VA introduced DBQs. And they started to give training to all the raters. And I was like, wow, this is a game changer. So I made up my mind at that particular point. I am no longer going to a C&P exam. And I didn't, because in that VA training, when the quality department gave training to us raters, they specifically said, if a veteran submits a DBQ and it's sufficient for rating purposes, there's no other reason to schedule a C&P exam. Now, there are sometimes there are reasons why raters would schedule an exam, but in that training, they specifically told us, I remember it just like it was yesterday. You have some information that's sufficient. Why are we requesting exams? We're wasting the C&P examiner's time, we're wasting the veteran's time. We have information. So after that training, I was like, I'm going to have my own doctors to complete DBQs. And before I went to work at the VA, I was getting treated by 2 different specialists. So I reached out to them and I told them what I needed. Of course, they didn't know of these documents because they were new. And they said, well, hey, bring it in, let us look at it. More than likely, yep, we can do it. And I was like, cool. But there was 3 other things that I was claiming that I needed to find doctors that would complete a DBQ. So what I did was, I was at work on my lunch break, pulled out my insurance card. On the back, there's a website and an 800 number. So I went to the website, did an examiner locator 5-10 miles from my zip code. I start calling. I think I called up to like 15 or 20 doctors. The majority of them said no, but I found 3 that said yes, made the appointment. Then I got to thinking, well, these DBQs are 4 or 5 pages long. So I asked the examiner, and this is a nugget for you. I asked that doctor/examiner, hey, what day of the week is your slowest day? And what is the last appointment time for that particular day? And they told me. I said, give me that appointment. And I drove to work. Had about a 45-minute drive, okay? And I would take an hour leave, vacation. So I could leave early just in case if I ran into any traffic, had a flat tire or whatever, okay? So my end of tour, I got off work at 3:30. We call it end of tour, 3:30. I had a 4 o'clock appointment. So I said, okay, I'm gonna take an hour of leave so I could leave work at 2:30. Then I was like, you know what? I'll skip my lunch. I'll leave at 2. And that way I can get to that examiner's office early. Just so happened, a couple of them, they had appointments that canceled. And they was like, Mr. Kimball, if you can get here earlier, we can go ahead and take you and you can spend more time with the doctor to go over that documentation. And that is exactly what happened. But it took me about 45 minutes to just call them and explain to people. And that was over, not one day, that was over like 2 or 3 days, okay? Because I only had an hour to call all these numbers. And luckily enough, I went in, I paid my copay because they were filling them out and they let me pay my copay. And that's how I got the other 3 DBQs. I already explained the reason why. And I hate to say this, but some of these C&P examiners, they get caught up in the feelings and they start doing too much. And when I got a copy of my C&P exams from the VA and I saw what those 2 doctors, what they didn't write, they flat out lied. And a lot of you have left me comments that says, Dwayne, the examiner didn't do this, or the examiner said this. It was really bad. I get it. I've been there as well. And so when the VA made these DBQs public, I was like, I'm never going to another C&P exam because I'm not going to give them the option to say no. Now, with that being said, before I get into the options that you have, I must say this. I don't tell veterans to go to a C&P exam. I don't tell veterans not to go to a C&P exam if they have their own DBQ and Nexus. What I do tell veterans is, 1, before you complete or have an examiner to complete that DBQ, make sure you know for what condition the correct examiner is filling out the correct DBQ, okay? That's important. Also, make sure you print it from the VA's website, okay? And finally, understand the VA regulations and manual references as it pertains to private DBQs, because that's going to be a factor when it comes to deciding, do you go or you don't go? So I knew what the VA, what the training, what the standards was as it pertains to DBQs and Nexus statements. So I made sure mine was actionable and sufficient, 38 CFR 3.326 subpart B, and I stood on that. At the end of the day, this is your claim, And you're going to have to make that decision. I have a actionable and sufficient DBQ if you go or if you don't go. So again, I don't tell people to go or not to go. Get educated on the regulations and references as it pertains to these DBQs and make your decision. Now, as we wrap up, what are your options? You can do exactly what I did. If you have a private doctor, you have insurance, start calling, especially if it's a medical professional or mental health professional that you've been seeing for a while. Ask them. Work with them and explain to them, hey, this is what I need and this is why I need it. Use the same process that I came up with. Ask them, hey, what day of the week is your slowest days? What is your last appointment for that particular day? I was talking to a veteran a few weeks ago, and we were talking about these DBQs. I was telling him, it was a male veteran, about me taking off work. And he was like, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking off work. Well, it's a means to an end. I want to make sure that I'm getting this done right. You'll take off work to go on a trip. You'll take off work or whatever. These are your benefits. Now, at the end of the day, if you don't want to take off work, you don't want to put the time in, hey, I get it. That's just the way I approached it, okay? So as your primary doctor outside the VA, if you have one, would they complete one? Also, if you don't, but you have a primary care physician within the VA, okay, you can ask them, but keep in mind, a lot of them, what I've been hearing, are saying no, but it won't hurt to ask. And yes or no, it's not a conflict of interest, okay? Another option that you have, contact your VA medical center. Ask them, do they have a DBQ clinic? I did a video about DBQ clinics. I'm in the Tampa, Florida area. The Tampa VA Medical Center has a DBQ clinic. They allow you, well, last time I checked, they'll allow you to come in and they'll complete up to 3 DBQs, but they won't do Nexus statements, okay? But I haven't verified that information in about 6 or 7 months, okay? So if you're in the Tampa, Florida area and you fall under the Tampa VA Medical Center, call that 800 number and ask them to get you in contact with their DBQ clinic. Now, if you're in another state, still call that VA Medical Center and just ask them, do you have a DBQ, Disability Benefit Questionnaire clinic on site? And if they say yes, have them to transfer you over there and ask them, one, I need a DBQ completed. How many can I get completed? If they say 3, fine. Do you do Nexus statements? No, we do not. So you got to keep that in mind as well. So those are some options that I think that you have as a veteran if you decide not to go to a VA C&P exam and get a private physician or mental health examiner to complete your DBQ. With that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and as always, share this video with your fellow veterans. Thank you.